Good evening, good evening, good evening. It's your girl. Hold on. We got some things. Come on now. I need this to come on. Come on with it. Happy Wednesday. Of course, this is the first Wednesday of July. 4th of July weekend coming on. I know everybody's excited about the 4th of July. Oh my goodness, I have to position things all the time on this. Um, it's your girl, Morticia Sherman, the unapologetic therapist, here to give you the update on what's going on here in the mental health world. I'm here every Wednesday from the hour of 7 to 8. Sometimes we can go a little bit over. The reason why we start this podcast, and I have to continue to reiterate this over and over again, the reason why this podcast was created was for you, the viewer. You. We talk about all things mental health. Why? Because everything starts from the mind. Everything starts from the mindset. Dealing with your money, dealing with your family, dealing with your finances, dealing with your job. Everything encompasses around the mindset. So we talk about all things mental health. Sometimes we may go in there about things that have happened that are comical. Sometimes I may throw a little joke in there every now and then because I'm not a comedian, but I can say some stuff. We talk about all things family, getting along with your family, family love. Um, I even will throw in a little short stories that I may say about things that may have transpired in my life. We even talk about things that are going on in the community. Of course, you see this shirt that I have on. If you were on my page today, I posted a video that I was shared with by none other than a gentleman in the Eagles Home area that's doing the same thing. I'm all about community. WIPO is a youth development program. I love youth. I think youth are the first place where you need to capture things to help them change their mindset, change their behavior, change their patterns. Just because your parents decided to do that thing don't mean you have to do it. I'm all about breaking generational curse barriers, of course. If you came last week, I had a special guest, none other than a comedian, Big Skinny. He's gonna be at the event on July 19th. I'm telling you, I got people saying that they're coming. I got people that's coming. I'm excited about this. You're gonna get some real conversation about mental health. I want you to come out with your questions. Ask your questions. We got answers for you. You can buy general admission, still available. VIP is still available. I love the VIP packages. I'm sorry. I'm in hosting it, I just really want one myself. The things that are going on. Then you're doing some activities. Of course, we're going to do the Dear Me, and then we're going to do the painting my trauma on a canvas. I still have two gentlemen that are going to come here and be on the panel. Ladies, I love you, love you, love you. But just like Men Mental Health Month, it's about the men. I need to talk to the men because, again, the men are the generational, they start the patterns. So we got to get with our men, listen to our men, love on our men more. And like I said, listen, because we always think we got to have the last word. Yeah, I did say it unapologetically, but not me. I don't have to have the last word. Sometimes I do, but on all occasions, I'm listening because God created Adam first before he created Eve. And we have to listen to wisdom and get true understanding. So July 19th is the mental health symposium. Doors open at 9. And we're done at 5. Of course, we're going to have brunch. We're having shrimp and grits. None other than catering by none other than Rest and Relax Catering. When I say some great food, I ate it before it became a catering service. I know that they can cook. When they started their business, I got excited. Of course, we're going to have food, prizes, games, a whole lot of things going on with that. On that same day, the Critical Show is having kids' summer food and clothing drive at the Curry Road Park. That is 7201 Curry Road. You can see that all on social media. Yes, Why He Can't is a sponsor. When I say I love youth, I really love youth because, like I said, It starts there. We're grown. We can still change our minds, but we can really mold children to be better than what we were, better than what our ancestors were, better than anything else. Because when they say, Whitney Houston sung the song, I believe the children are our future. And for those of us who graduated in the 90s, that was our graduation theme song, truth be told. But this right here is another opportunity. They're having games, free haircuts, girls who need their hair braided for school, come on out there, get these things done in the community. It's all about the community. The program that I'm a part of, WIOP, hey, we're talking about everything these kids need to understand to have a better future. You want each generation to have a different future. You want each generation to grow. And our young men are out here. We need to capture them right now and say, hey, you can be the next MLK. You can be the next Al Sharpton. You can be the next great Black Hispanic leader there are out there, because this is Black and brown culture. And then with that, just having them, having people to just be a part of this. This is open to the community, ages 9 to 17. I had an opportunity to talk to some great people today, some church leaders, 2 hours of education, 2 hours of basketball. We talked about volleyball. I love volleyball. It's a whole different beast. Props to those who are serving, passing, and spiking. I can't say the other word, but serves. Yeah, we already know the volleyball world. So shouts out to that. But if you're in the Acres-Home area, we started June 9th. It's all the way until July 30th. If you have children between the ages of 9 and 17 and you need at least 4 hours of getaway time, moms, dad, bring your kid to this event. It's free. Let them come learn about mental health awareness, financial awareness, communication skills for leadership, different things that they can learn. 2 hours of that. And if you have a daughter and a son that likes to play basketball, let them come play basketball. They also have tennis that's going on out there. Recreational sports. You got a free 4-hour babysitter. Not to say it like that, but free 4 hours away from your kid if you're in Acres-Home. It's still open to the community. Then I got to bring it back. Come on, sign up for the mental health awareness symposium that's going on July 19th. September. I got an event coming up in September, but it's not on me. Someone asked me to come out and speak. September, July 19th. This year from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., Greater Grace Church, 12121 Veterans Memorial. Look, we're going to have food. The DJ is going to be ready to play some songs for us to dance. Bring your fans, because I know y'all going to want to do that fan, where these fans at, boots on the ground. We're going to do some line dancing. We're going to have some fun and everything. I have another special guest that's coming on tonight. I have had an opportunity in my growing, because I'm going to continue to grow in this field. I'm going to continue to grow in this industry. I'm going to continue to be a part of where God is taking me. And I'm telling you, he has placed me in some rooms I could have not even imagined. This coming Sunday, I'm going to be a part of an event. I was asked, this is my second year doing this, on July, National Minority Mental Health Awareness Month. This is my second year doing this. And I was able to be out there and talk to families about this young man. Mr. Thompson, and the story behind it, you just really have to be there. He had a mental health illness and someone murdered him. This goes on with our Black men and our Hispanic men all throughout the world. People don't know. People are so mean and cruel to those who have a mental health disorder because they don't understand that those people are unique people. I say this when I talk to clients all the time, but more about this, you're going to see this on my social media pages. If you want to be out there and support this family, it's this coming Sunday from 11 to 4 p.m. This is a story that everybody needs to hear to be aware of what's going on when you have a family member or loved one who is dealing with a mental health disorder and you're not aware of what's going on and what illness that they're dealing with, because it is a disorder. It's dealing with the mind. It's a mindset. It's things that transform in the mind, that transpire in the mind, that individuals, if you're not fully aware of what's going on, then you're not going to know how to handle this correctly. So I will be there on this coming Sunday. It is at the Herman Park on the outskirts, almost where that Luby's used to be by McGregor, by the bayou. But I'll be there. This is my second year doing this. I'm so excited to be out there to speak and talk about different diagnoses when it comes to mental health disorder, and being able to know when to really hone in and cover your family member, because the story behind this is it should not go unknown, and it should be talked about all the time. Y'all know I talk about mental health and mental health disorders because there's something about it that we need to know. Then our sponsor, they're one of our great sponsors that's going to be there on the 19th, Texas ABA Center. They are Texas Applied Behavioral Analysts, and they deal with kids and families who believe your child has autism. They test, they do all that information to find out if they do have autism, what spectrum, and I'm sure they do service kids with autism and ABA therapy. So come to the event on July 19th, find out more information about Texas ABA. But my special guest is here, and my special guest, they man, I met them at an art show. And when I sat down and talked to Ms. Weaver, I was like excited just to hear what hadn't happened, because stories are not told correctly. And we know that in community, when it comes to the Black and Brown community and young men especially, suicide is never talked about, as well as is never an issue that's addressed, because nobody knows what has happened. Nobody knows the story. So I'm going to bring my special guest, and I'm hoping I can put they're called a bold story never ends. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on Miss Weaver. Hey,
Hi there.
how's it going?
Oh, pretty good. And yourself?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm so
Good.
excited to sit down and talk to you. The last time we talked was at the art festival, and
Mhm.
you had a table there,
Yes.
and you told me the story. But I would like everybody, my audience, need to know about your story and the backstory behind the founding of A Bold Story Never Ends.
Well, great. Thank you for having me. We founded November 16th, 2022, as a result of losing my son Cameron to suicide. We lost Cameron July 13th, 2020. Cameron was my only son, my oldest. And during that time, of course, being a mental health therapist, a licensed professional counselor myself, I really struggled with that loss. On and off throughout Cameron's life, he suffered with anxiety and depression, but so did quite a few people in our family. So never would I have imagined that, that would be our story. But I received a text from Cameron that morning, and he was basically apologizing, saying that he loved me, but he was tired. And so I immediately called back and didn't get an answer. That was the last communication I had from Cameron. And so when that happened, of course, I'm struggling with the loss of my child, but I'm also it's layered, because as a therapist, I was also struggling with the fact that I couldn't save my child, and that that I lost him in that way. And so one of my close friends, almost immediately within the week of losing him, she told me, she said, you need to do a nonprofit. And at that point, I couldn't wrap my head around that. I was like, I'd never been, you know, um, business minded in that regard. I've worked for the school district for years. I'd kind of considered private practice, but again, because I didn't consider myself to be a business person, I never really went in that direction. But So but after losing Cameron, that's exactly what we did. We started to work with a number of people that reached out, and they helped me to go ahead and get established. So we founded, it was my daughter Aaliyah and my sister Avis. We founded a bowl story. We sat around, I remember the day like it was yesterday, kind of just sitting around my dining room table, kind of brainstorming, like, what will our mission be? What do we want to accomplish? And also, what would the name be? And we agreed on a bold story never ends, because Cameron always lived in boldness. Cameron was, in his 29 years, he'd done far more than I could ever imagine. He didn't have any limitations. As a mom and as a young mom, because I had Cameron when I was 16 years old, I was always very, very cautious. So, by the time that I was 20, I had him, I was married, and I had my daughter. So I was always very methodical in the way that I did things, because I wanted to, ensure our safety and ensure that we were established. But Cameron didn't. He was always out for the next adventure. I remember one day him calling saying, "Mom, I'm trying out for the volunteer fire department in Huntsville." And so he sends me a video of him on like this 50-foot tower where he's about to jump off as part of the training for this thing, for this academy. And so that was him. And so my daughter came up with the name A Bold Story Never Ends. One, because of his boldness, but two, we wanted to take the power back, and we wanted his story to be told from our perspective and not from, the what was going around about why, he decided to take his life.
Okay. And I would have to say, I totally agree with you. As therapist to therapist, we are the main ones that cannot save our family, because we have to think of the ethical part and the conflict of interest, because we see a side of them that someone neutral would have to go in from a different way of doing so. That's why when a lot of people come to me and I know them personally and they're like, "I want you to be my therapist," and I'm like, I can't do
I
that,
can't do that.
because that totally conflict of interest, because I would then it would turn more into us just talking than you getting a service, and getting the full me instead of getting the family or the friend me.
Right.
So and then with the story behind Cameron and you being his mom, would you say that there were signals that you may have seen before with what was going on that led up to him
You
taking his life?
Yeah, definitely hindsight is 2020, of course. But
Mhm.
like I said, that we honestly we had another incident where Cameron had contemplated taking his life, but he called me, and I was there, and I got him in with a therapist, and he was working with someone. I guess this was maybe about 6 years prior to this incident. But
Mhm.
over those 6 years, he would call me. Like we made an agreement that whenever he was in trouble, he would call me, no matter what time of day or night that I would pick up, and we would talk. And he held true to that.
Okay.
And there had been times at 2 o'clock in the morning he was upset or he was down about something, and he called, and we would talk, and he would be fine until the next time. And then even a few weeks prior, I directly asked him, because he had just gone through a breakup. He was having a really hard time with that. He was a probation officer, and he was really struggling with that, because he felt that the system didn't really rehabilitate the people that he was working with. And he said, "Mom, they make a mistake, but then their lives are ruined forever, because they have a felony, but then they also have to have the money to come in and see me, and
Mhm.
they have to do whatever services that are required by the court." And he's like, "But they can't even get jobs because they have felonies." So he struggled a lot with that. And so we would talk, and he was like, "No, Mom, I'm good." And I said, "Well, do you?" He said, "Well, I'm he said, "No, I'm not thinking of killing myself." He said, "But I have to admit, I'm struggling a bit." And I asked him if he wanted to see a counselor, a therapist. And originally he told me no. He was like, "Mom, you're my therapist." And we kind of just laughed it off. And I'm like, "No, baby, I'm not your therapist. I'm your mom. But we can definitely connect you with someone." And he told me that he'd kind of inquired with a few people, but there were either issues with them accepting his insurance or their availability. And so we had to talk about, I said, you can we can look at into my EAP until you can find someone more stable, things like that. And I later found out through in his things that he actually had sat down and he'd written a list of different therapists that he'd reach out to, but for whatever reason he was unable to connect.
And I find that, and not to cut you off, I find that so hard, and because I don't want to, and I'm doing this unapologetically,
Mm-hmm.
because so many people take up on this position, but then people want you real with them. They don't
Mm-hmm.
want the education. They don't want the book. They want somebody who has had the experience. They want you to, be relatable to some
Right.
capacity. But then when you're like, okay, just like they asked us in ethics, can we deal with someone who may have been a molester and you've been molested before?
Mm-hmm.
Can you deal with someone like that? And a lot of people will say, no, I can't because it would trigger me. But here's the thing, being a therapist and having a therapist, you should be able to maneuver around those triggers to
Mm-hmm.
where you don't understand what that, and it's not to shed light on making it seem like it's a bad thing, but what was the scope of life that caused that person to be a molester? What was the scope of life to cause a person to be a murderer? What was the scope of life that put them in that mindset? And that's what we were created for, to find out what it was that put them in that mindset so we can heal them. And sometimes healing them can also heal us.
Right. And I do understand that, that there may be some limitations that may prevent you from working with someone, but I'm a true believer of not just turning someone away and saying no. I'm going to connect them with, someone else. And that's part of what we do with the Bold Story. We're just about to phase in where we're actually providing direct therapy services. In the past, we've connected them with providers,
Mhm.
but I'm always, when someone calls me, I don't just say, well, no, I can't, I'm not seeing anyone, I can't help you. I'm calling, I'm giving them, I'm contacting my contacts and saying, do you have space? I have someone that's looking for these criteria, can you match with them? So I definitely don't believe in just hanging up the phone and just saying, figure it out, because
Mhm.
I do know, through Cameron's story and several other individuals that I've tried to connect with services who have, reached out for help and have just been blatantly told no or turned down. And I know how detrimental that can be. That could be
Mhm.
their last attempt
Right.
to reach out for help.
Right. And especially for our culture, we're the last ones to truly ask for help because
Hmm.
we're too afraid to share, or we too ashamed to talk
Hmm.
about what bothers us the most. And then in that conversation, when we begin to have those conversations, we begin to realize, oh, it's not as bad as I thought it was. Oh, I
Hmm.
can talk to someone and they're not going to judge me, because we're not out to judge anybody about what's going on
Right.
in your life. We're actually here to guide you,
Hmm.
to give you good guidance and good and clear direction. So give you clarity. And I remember when I first started my podcast, when I started this podcast, I made this statement because I had an opportunity to meet with a group of how can I life coaches.
Hmm.
And in that conversation, it became very heated
Hmm.
between me being a therapist and them being life coaches. And some of them said that, um, they understood my side, and I told them I understood their side. So I asked them, I said, the people that you're seeing, are they also seeing a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a therapist? And it was like, no, not really. I say, well, there's a difference between you and I.
Hmm.
I said, so if a client came to you and they were going down a rabbit hole, do you know how to pull them out of that rabbit hole to where they can understand and have clarity and some kind of guidance? And I was like, so if you are seeing someone who's not seeing a therapist or a psychiatrist, You may need to team up with us, because if you can't pull them out of that rabbit hole, things like that begin to transpire. They begin to think, oh, the life coach said I can do this, so I don't want to live anymore. And they can't come to you and say, I don't want to live anymore. They can, but then you need to call either 988 or call a professional for
Right.
this, because again, this person is talking about taking their life or talking
Definitely.
about homicidal. I feel like I want to hurt the person that I'm with. Don't
Hmm.
take those things lightly. That's not something we take lightly. You
Right.
know,
Right. And I agree. I think there's a place for everything. There are some things that life coaches will be great for, but I think that's where the education piece comes in. We have to be clear on our limitations and what we can provide and help people to understand that because you can help them maybe with some financial decisions or some business decisions that they're making, that you're not capable of handling that trauma that may come up as a result of other things that are happening to life, in their lives. And so I definitely think we have to be responsible and know our limitations, explain our limitations, and also pair up with individuals who can provide those services.
so I want to go back to your what you're doing in the community.
Okay.
A bold story never ends. When you say that you're helping, and I read on there, getting people who may not be able otherwise be able to get the services that we provide, you also offer that for them. Is it just individually? Are you doing it with families that deal with loss in this capacity? Or how do you take what you have and impact individuals in the community?
Okay, great question. Well, in the past, what we've done is mainly provide education and awareness. But starting August, we're going to be transitioning into actually providing those direct services. And like I said, we have supported a few individuals that have reached out needing individual therapy and who didn't have the means to cover those. For example, we had one individual, he was in therapy with a therapist, but he couldn't afford the rates any longer. And so we were able to come up with the funding to offer him a sponsorship where we covered 5 sessions for him, so that he could work on getting some, the funding or other services so that he could continue. But he was able to at least have those 5 sessions so that they didn't have to discontinue his treatment abruptly. And so we also did that with 2 other individuals. And now what we're doing is working on building a directory of providers so that, like I said, I'm going to start seeing clients in August. But if I have someone that comes in whose needs don't fall within, the scope of what I'm doing, then I can reach out to you and say, hey, can you take on this client? And then, what we're doing is working with the provider to either where they're willing to do a sliding scale or to work with us so that to get affordable rates for the clients. So we just want to make sure that we have that for the individual services. We're also doing some support groups for men. We started March of 2024 in Meridiana. We started a group. And then we opened another group in February of this year. And now we're about to open our third on the 15th of this month. So we do have those men support groups. We've had workshops for women like self-care and empowerment. And so we're moving towards support groups for grief and things of that nature. But as of right now, to answer your question, it's mostly individual and then group. But we would definitely love to, be able to evolve into providing the family therapy and things of that nature.
And that's amazing. That is amazing. Thank you for sharing that information, because with it, although June was Men Mental Health Awareness Month, I'm kicking this off and we're going to continue to do it, because it's that silence of our men that they are slowly leaving. And the first thing a person in the mindset of the world or society saying that they're no longer men because either they're crossing over to be with other men? Are they in prison? And I, this one young lady made this one statement. I was sitting in a group of women, and let me say this: I commend you. I appreciate you doing it, and I want to know more information about that as I come across young men and men for these groups to be able to provide. Because I call myself, I wear this shirt that says "I am for everybody," and the reason why I say that because I am that way. What I don't know, I can get you to somewhere that will be able to give you the services.
Definitely.
But there was this conversation I had with these group of women, and they were like, "Where are all the good men?" I said, "Trying to heal." Because
Yeah.
they keep getting hurt
Yeah.
over and over again, just
Hmm.
like you. You get hurt by men and you want to heal, they want to heal too. You know, men want to heal and they want to have a safe space. And this is what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, having a safe space. They always out there, men are out there just like we are out there in the world, trying to survive, trying to provide, trying to protect. And then for them to come home to a
Hmm.
wife that don't understand that,
Yeah.
where do they go? Where can they really go to release that tension and that pressure? And it's not always the barbershop. They don't go to the barbershop to talk about us. They don't care about us in no barbershop. They talk about cars and everything else. You're the last thing on their mind.
But ironically, that's how we're reaching them through in the barbershops.
Yeah.
Our groups are operated through the barbershops because we do know, like you said, men are looking to be able to talk. They're looking for advice. But then they also have that stigma of having to be strong and doing it themselves and not reaching out for help. And so, even at times when, I've heard women say that their husbands have come to them and tried to open up these conversations, but they're instantly shut down because of her reaction. And
Mhm.
if a man shares with you the vulnerability once and you don't nourish that and you don't support them and meet them where they are, it's not going to happen again. So when we started the groups, we actually connected with Chop House Barbershop. And so that's what we're doing. We're meeting in the barbershop where men feel comfortable, because they may not necessarily feel safe in a therapist's office, or they may not feel safe, in another therapeutic environment. So, but we're getting, we have our trained men who are going into these barbershops on a Tuesday night in the evening, and they're having these conversations. And, the men that are hesitant originally, because they may be in there having a conversation where someone else is getting their hair cut, but then they start listening in, and then the next week they're joining in on the conversation.
Mhm.
So we found that to be very a very safe place for them and a very therapeutic place in a way, because then, even with the barbers participating, they're starting to pick up on some of the verbiage and that being able to lead them to the appropriate channels outside of those meetings, and to connect with therapists or to reach out. I've had people that have sat in on a group and then they're calling me. They're like, I came to the group, but now I know I need therapy. How can I get therapy?
And that's a good thing. That is an
Yeah.
amazing thing because I have guys that come to me and it's like, I love how you are so unapologetic because I made this statement last week or a couple of weeks ago. I've even had clients that come to me and be like, "Can I call you Amy?" No.
No.
You look like Ain't. No, do
No.
not call me Amy. I am your therapist. Auntie, no. I'm
Yeah.
not auntie, I'm your therapist. But just giving them that space and letting them know that, and I tell them in the beginning, this is a judgment-free zone. I'm not here to judge you. And they've even gotten to the point where Miss Merticia, I really enjoy, our session, even if it's a couple. I really enjoy your session. I've gotten enough from your perspective. Do you know of a guy that can be just the same as you, that can
Mhm.
get in my face boldly and
Mhm.
say, call me out? Because a lot of times I may need that calling out and letting
Mhm.
me know, hey, this doesn't sound right. Let's redo this. Let's channel this information.
Mhm.
Someone just clicked in, Lashana. Okay, Family Fun Day with Whole Life Wellness. Okay,
Okay.
okay, that's good information to share. When does
Yeah,
that
Lasagna is is our director of community relations. So I'm sure she's reminding me to let you all know that we are having a family fun day. That's
Okay.
one of our annual initiatives. We do a mental health awareness event for the family, and it's literally a fun day. So we're talking. We have resources available for the parents, but we're also engaging the families in games and food. And we've partnered with Chick-fil-A and Sienna. Mr. Tony Levine, he committed to us the first year. He said, as long as you do this every year and it's free to the community, I'll provide food for everyone that participates. So last year he donated 175 items, I think. So we were
Okay.
able to feed 175 people last year with sandwiches, chips, and drinks for everyone who's in attendance. So we're in the process of preparing for that. It's going to be October the 11th. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, at Kitty Hollow Park in Missouri City from 11 to 5.
Well, make sure you send me that information so I can post that as well on all my social media platforms.
Yes.
Come on, Chick-fil-A, like my grandson says. Chick-fil-A, come on, Chick-fil-A.
Yes, he's awesome. Whenever we reached out to him, he's been available for us, and he's like, he said they get requests all the time. He said, but what you're doing is important, and I want to make sure that you're able to continue to do that.
And that's the thing. I even had to sit here and stir within my thoughts. You know, we think as therapists, we're great thinkers. We can be thinkers too, but we're great thinkers.
Yes.
But in that, just really, how do you? Because I know for me, the challenge has been finding the right niche for people who are out here, these corporations and companies, to
Mhm.
collaborate with, where it's not overpowering, where it's all about them, but more about the mental health. Because I don't
Exactly.
want you to just put your name on this, but I'm trying to get to a community. Yeah, I know you want my audience, but are you really doing what you say you're going to do in the community when it comes to mental health? How do you deal with something such as that, or have you encountered an issue such as that?
Most definitely, because we definitely, we're a nonprofit, and so everything that we do is contingent on donations, fundraising, and all of that. And then I can't do it alone, and up until, well, previously I worked full time. I did this part time, and it turned into a full time job. So I was literally working two full time jobs, going in every direction. And I quickly learned I can't do it all. I have to be able to collaborate with others. And I had a conversation with one of my director of strategic planning. She's also a therapist, and she has her own practice. And she is as committed to A Bold Story Never Ends. Lasagna, who just responded, she's a social worker in the school district, and they're just as committed to A Bold Story as I am. And we're all volunteer. No one gets paid, but they put down their ego, and they're like, this is for the community. This is what we're doing. So, they don't complain about not getting paid, but yet working an extra 4 hours, to put on a community event, or 4 hours each week to have a community, to plan a community event.
Hmm.
And then you also have, like, I've reached out to people, and their response is, well, I'm building my own practice. And I want to know, how does that conflict with what we're doing? Because you're building your practice, but is your practice the building and the things within the building, or is it to service the people? And so if we're working together, you may be able to touch, what, 20, 30 people, but together we can reach thousands of people. So that's my philosophy. And I'm like you, I'm a straight shooter. I'm just like, look, this is the perspective. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm here to work with you to hopefully lighten your burden, so that you can lighten my burden, but yet we're touching the people. So that's usually how I approach it. But it's definitely a concern. And I think, and I get it. Everyone has their own passions, they have their own dreams and what they want to achieve. But I'm a true believer that we can all win. It doesn't have to be a competition.
I agree. I can't help but agree 100%, because I know, even for me, I'm building my brand. Even though I've been in the industry for over 11 plus years, but I don't mind sharing what I've learned because what I can share may help you. And I say this all the time: there's enough food on the table for us all to eat.
Yes.
You know, I may not like bread. You may like bread. You can have the bread,
Yeah,
and
the
I
bread.
may like the
Give
fruit.
me the turkey.
Yeah,
Yes.
let's just share. And I'm for profit. We're building our nonprofit side, but even with that, I love collaborating with people because I don't know everything. I
Right.
don't know everything. I'm not trying to know everything, and I believe my battle with that was I would always meet people just like you said.
Mhm.
I'm growing my stuff. I'm growing my stuff. I'm growing my stuff. And then
Mhm.
as soon as their stuff grow, it's like, oh, I can't help you with yours. And I'm
Mhm.
like, but I helped you grow
You.
your stuff, but don't worry about it. I had to learn
Mhm.
not to worry about that because if God is not in it, it's not going to go anywhere. And
No.
he say, do not touch his anointed. So I
Right.
call myself the anointed one. So my one of my titles is God favorite daughter. So, but
Mhm.
with that, just being able to be on the same platform, the same level of someone else who is building, because you never know where you may get fed at
Mhm.
just by connecting with that person.
Definitely.
And like you said, just because you may have someone that's going to come to your agency and you may not be able to provide, but because my presence is there and my heart posture is in the right area,
Mhm.
you can say, oh, I know someone who will come and do exactly what I would do, but what you need from them. And
Yeah.
that's how it goes, that
Yes.
heart posture. And
Mhm.
I say that over and over again. A couple of months ago, I did about ministry and mental health. It's the heart posture, how we love on people, how we treat people, how we continue to work in this industry, because this industry is so needed
Definitely.
more than what people can think. It is so needed, but we're the last ones that we're like the end result of everything.
Right.
And I had this thing that my daughter had to get on me. I was at the Texas Black Expo and I made this shirt and it was said unapologetically therapizing individuals. So my thing of it was I wanted to put the letters together. And instead the letters said UTI. And I was like, I'm the new, and my daughter's like, Mom, no, don't associate yourself with that. A woman's gonna be like, what?
What?
I was like, no. She was like, Mom, don't put
Yeah.
that. And I had already created shirts and everything.
Oh my gosh.
She was like,
But
Mom,
that's great marketing because I'm gonna do a double take. Can you explain this? What is this?
but see, we got that. She
Yes.
was like, and this is the new age. This is the generation that tells you how to do certain things, and if you don't do it like this, won't nobody hire you. That she's
Mhm.
at 30s, that
Yeah.
generation, the 90s babies. So
Right.
she was like, no,
Mhm.
don't do that.
Don't promote that.
No,
No.
no. And she's an HR person. So she was like, don't do that, Mom. And she's like, did you talk to somebody before you said you do? I was like, leave me alone. She was like, don't do that. Don't do
No.
that. So yeah, but with it being, like I said, this is going to be a continual thing, this men and mental health, because I'm seeing so many individuals, especially the black and brown men, who don't have a safe space to talk. And the younger generation are leaving a lot sooner than
Mhm.
expected, because it's like, who do I talk to and tell that I'm stressed out from school? Who do I talk to and tell that I'm having these issues? The guys are teasing me because I'm not like them. And
Mhm.
I made this one statement to an individual. I said, I really prefer talking to people who have a mental health disorder than those who don't believe that they do.
Mhm.
And they were like, huh? I said, yeah, because they're normal. The
Mhm.
ones who are in denial are looking for stability.
Right.
And there's a difference between normalcy and stability. Normal. Yeah, I know that I may have depression every now and then. I know that I may be sad. I know, I may have these uh, intrusive thoughts. I know that these things may be happening compared to someone, oh no, I've never experienced that. Oh
Right.
no, I've never been sad. Oh no, I've never cried. Oh no. And when you hit that break, when they hit that break and that point, then I'll be wanting to be like, did you really say that the last time? Remember you said that you didn't do those things. Remember you said,
Mhm.
but I can't. As a
Right.
professional, I have to look at them as, yeah, I'm here to help you in a professional manner to know that it's okay to not be okay. It's
Right.
okay to have these intrusive thoughts, but what do you do with those intrusive thoughts? It's
Mhm.
okay, to say that I'm sad or, what is your thought pattern? And I always say, what do you do whenever a thought comes? What's your response?
Mhm.
If it's negative, what's your response? What's your feedback to that thought?
Mhm.
And it's always, I never thought about that.
Right. Right, because we have to normalize that. That's why so many people, when a lot of people think about mental health, they think about, schizophrenia and those extreme, forms of mental health. But we all struggle with mental health from, at some point in our lives, whether it's, anxiety, or just the stress related uh issues or what have you. And so that's why it's so important to have those conversations and to normalize it so that people don't have that automatic response like, oh no, I'm not crazy, I'm not, I don't have a problem. And so, and the more that we talk about it, I feel the more comfortable people will be with noticing, this is not. And my favorite thing is when people say, well, that's the way I was raised, that's the way my mom did it, this is normal, I'm normal. No, not really. You're not fine.
No, no.
you know but it's just you've become comfortable with those behaviors. And so, that's why we have to start identifying that a lot of, especially within our culture, we still have a lot of that slave mentality. you
Oh, come on now.
know, and it's like we have to break those cycles in the way that we discipline, the way that we talk to each other, the way that our households function. And we can't just keep saying it's normal because that's the way that it's happened for, 5 generations.
Mhm,
We
mhm.
have to, we have to start having those conversations and be willing to adjust and accept. It's not because I didn't have a good parent, they just didn't know any better. But I can do differently because I know better. So I can do better.
So we sitting on the same pew in church. I'm telling you right now, because that is my whole feedback to a lot of things. Those generational cliches
Hmm.
that we keep passing from generation to generation, that it's almost listening like, and I'm gonna use this because I was on radio. I was on this cast called the Saved and Silly Morning Show, and we did radio on Saturdays. And it's almost like playing a song that you heard when you was a kid, but then when you finally listen to the lyrics, you're like,
Yeah.
oh no, that didn't sound right.
Right.
Oh no.
What were
So
they
it's,
saying?
yeah, so it's the same thing with mental health. These
Mhm.
cliches that our parents used to say, oh, don't tell nobody what happened behind closed doors. Well, why not? Because what happened behind closed doors is the reason why I'm responding to my behavior right now. So
Exactly.
I want to change that.
Mhm.
And when you come across clients who are like, hey, my family are so avoided, they're so pushed back. They don't want to talk about things that we need to talk about. But then also they fail to realize that when you hold and you harness that stuff in,
Mhm.
that's what's causing you to have these medical ailments,
Yes.
these cells, cancer,
Mhm.
diabetes, high blood pressure, heart. Cancer really is just a stem cell that's really angry. I say it's angry and it's attacking your body because it's like
Right.
you walking in unforgiveness. You don't want to forgive nobody. So these
Mhm.
things, they eat up our body. And
Yes.
it starts with the mind. It starts with the mindset of saying nobody loves me, nobody cares about me. Well,
Mhm.
do you care for yourself? Do you love
Right.
yourself? Because
Right.
when you change your mindset, you change your behavior.
Exactly. Exactly.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, that you are on my pew. We in the same church, and may not be under the same pastor, but you and my son, you on my same
On the same
pew.
view.
Yeah, we on that pew. We are, I think they put us on a for individuals such as us
Mhm,
who go against the grain. You
mhm.
know, we're out here, breaking these stigma barriers. We out here talking to people and having those conversations compared to our counterparts. It's like, I just need you to come so I can collect this check. No, I
No,
tell them all the time, it's about the money, but it's not about the money.
no.
I want to make sure that you're getting your healing and that you're getting it to the best of your ability. I'm not going to do the work. I had this one client, my statement says, my disclaimer say, I'm not doing therapy for you.
Mm, you're right.
And she was like, "You're not doing therapy
So aren't
for
you the
me?" I said,
therapist?
"No, I'm not doing it for
For
you.
you.
You need to tell me what it is that we need to fix and what's going on. Not fix, but correct and change." Because I
Mhm.
don't like the word fix, because when you fix
No,
it, then you can go back and, we need to correct and change these behaviors. So
right.
she was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. We're not, no, I'm not doing therapy for you. I'm doing it with you, but I'm not doing it for you." So, what is your specialty? Tell me what it is. Being a therapist yourself, what is your specialty?
Mhm. Well, trauma, actually, because through my life, also throughout, losing Cameron, of course, was a very traumatic experience, and so I've grown into that.
Okay.
Initially, I was a teacher first, and then a school counselor. So I always envisioned myself working with kids and with the little ones. But as I evolved into my positions, I started working with the teenagers, and I saw, from the kindergarten student on to the senior, trauma was what was at the root of most things, and so that's kind of become my expertise. I'm praying about the grief component because I'm still so heavy in my grief,
Mm-hmm.
but I do believe that because of my experience with it, that ultimately that will probably be where I'm most helpful and most beneficial. But I have to make sure that I'm okay and that I'm in a place where I can truly support others in the way that they need. So that's kind of where I am now. I love family. I love relationships. The marriage issues. So that's, yeah, all of those things.
And the best thing about being a therapist, you can tap into all those things, and
Mhm.
you can actually have the experience from it. And like I say, people want us to be more relatable. They want to know that you've experienced it because you can understand where they're coming from a lot better than
Mhm.
to look inside of these books because we got the degree and we got the letters behind our name and we're paying for malpractice insurance,
Yes.
all these things because we don't want to get sued. But just in general, because we can tap into those different things. I know for me, and like you said, for grief, I found grief was my strongest suit because just talking about life after,
Mhm.
and a lot of people don't want to talk about life after. It's like, no, I want to see if I'm experience all five of these stages first. And you're not going to always experience all five of the stages. And I heard there's two more stages added to it. I was like,
Yes. Yeah.
can y'all stop doing that? Because later on, y'all talking about seven
Yes.
stages. Next, you're going to tell us y'all going to be like Apple. Y'all going to upgrade us to another number. We went from 5 to 7, and then what? Next, we're gonna be 9 or 11. I
Yes.
need y'all to be
But I
so.
think that just clarifies the fact that it's not linear. Grief is
No,
so not linear. So I think that's why they're feeling the need to add on these additional things. But it all grief is just forever morphing, and it's like you said, you can be at acceptance in the morning and into now in the afternoon. So I think research and is trying to label it, but I think it all boils down to the fact that grief, I'm a true believer that grief never ends because the
no,
love never ends.
no.
And so when I hear people saying, oh, it's been, in my case it's been 5 years, and thinking I'm just supposed to walk away from, my hurt and my pain. I had my child for me 29 years. So how
Mhm.
is he going to walk? How is he going to leave in 5 years,
Yeah.
And so I think that's the important thing that we have to understand is that your life is forever changed when you have, those types of loss, whether it's the loss of life or sometimes it's the loss of a situation. It may be the loss of a divorce, the loss of, your innocence through molestation or sexual abuse,
Hmm.
So we have to start embracing that and working with people and realizing that because you're changed, that you're transitioning into a new being, and stop trying to put you back into this mold of who you were and how you should be behaving.
Yeah, yeah, because that's my main thing. Whenever I talk about grief with anybody, I always tell them, do not let nobody tell you when it's okay.
Right.
Just don't sit there. That's all I ask. It's just don't sit and soak in it. Give it a name.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm dealing with anger right now. Give
Mm-hmm.
me a moment, process it. I'm dealing with disbelief, denial right now. Let me process it. Just don't sit there.
Right.
And I also go from the side of celebrate that
Mm-hmm.
person as much as you can.
Right.
As much as you can, celebrate them. I sit around sometimes, and my mom passed in 2017, and I sometimes sit around and I laugh, me and my kids, about things my mom would do,
Mm-hmm.
and that helps me with my grief because I was in the room when she passed.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, sometimes I'll sit and think of the things that she would say to people, and I'd be like, ooh, I want to say that as a therapist, but I can't, some of the things she would say, that older generation, they was really whipped and
Yeah.
snappy with those words. So I was like, I want to say that to somebody, but I'm gonna get in trouble if I do that. So tell my audience, and I really am excited, just to even be in the presence of what's going on with A Bold Story Never Ends. Tell us how we can reach you. Where can we find you? How can we collaborate? How can we connect? First of all, how can we build friendship, relationship
Yes.
with you? And that's where we need to go first. How can we build relationship, getting to know what's your mission, what's going on, and how can we be a part?
Yeah, thank you. It's the fact that you said that just made me chuckle because you said how to build the friendships. We had been referring to relationships as sponsorships or collaborations, and the other day I had this epiphany. I was like, no, we have friends of a bold story because we need to build those intimate relationships. I want people that's connecting to us who care about us and what we're doing, and so I love the fact that you refer to it as those friendships. But we're on all social media platforms: TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. All is a Bold Story, and it never ends. And then we have a YouTube page, A Bold Story Never Ends, as
Mhm.
well as our website, www.aboldstoryneverends.org. And so we have all our contact information there. We have all of our team members and what they do, and so if you're specifically interested in having us at a community event. We have Lasagna, who was on Reese earlier, who posted earlier. She's here to connect us. She's the one who established that relationship with us with Chick-fil-A. We have, a director of marketing who helps with the social media. Like I said, right now we're trying to partner with people because we're building a directory, and so and that friendship is two-sided because there is a subscription or of a donation to us to be a part of that directory, but we're doing your PR for you. We're sending that directory out to our the friends of a Bold Story. We're posting it on our social media. We're also going to include it on our website, and so that when individuals need help, they can go in and they can look for people, because it's going to be by specialty, and we're going to have a component that explains the difference between life coaches and licensed professional counselors and social workers, so that people really understand those distinctions. um, so those are some ways definitely to connect with us. We at our event in October, we will have resource booths, so for individuals that want to come out and participate in the fun day, but also distribute information about their organizations, they can do so. We also have a gala of some sort each year. Last year, it was called Unmasking Mental Health. And so we did a masquerade gala, and we had people come out and share their businesses, but also it was a night to just celebrate our team. You know, we were two, it was our second birthday, and we just wanted to let loose. We worked really hard. So we had a DJ come out, we had food, and just a good time. And so we're always holding events like that. For Women's World International Women's Day this year, we did a women's empowerment called She Is Me empowerment series. And so we do workshops like that. That was in collaboration with Passion and Purpose Fulfilled, which is another a therapy agency. And so, you know, there's so many opportunities. You know, we've done speaking engagements. So if you want someone for the team to come out and speak on a mental health topic, or to participate in a workshop, we have another collaboration where we're going to be working with young moms, because that's another area that's near and dear to my heart. We also, thank you,
Yep.
Lasagna.
She threw it in there. Thank you, Lasagna.
My team is awesome. I don't know what I would do without them. But we also, we do senior student scholarships. So each year we identify students who have overcome some type of challenge and who want to pursue their college education. And so this year we had 2 scholarship recipients. They got $1,000 each. We've been doing it 3 years, and we've awarded 3 the first year, 6, a total of 6 scholarships.
Okay.
And so we're also working to incorporate students that are willing to come in and volunteer on a consistent basis, giving them some type of scholarship once they graduate to go on to college as well.
That's great. That's great. I hope that I can join in and be a part, because I was just talking to a young man today about college. You know, it's so funny how God starts you off on one area only to take those things that he's put you in to have them to collaborate and be more than one. And being a college strategist, because that's what I was before a therapist, a college strategist, and you know, and being able to use that. And I know that I can't help everybody, so I don't mind sharing. Like I said, we can all eat. Everybody got, you know, like I said, you may like bread, I may like fruit, so we can share on that capacity. But I just really want to thank you. I knew it was a reason for me to meet you, because finding out about your son and what happened, and also being a suicide survivor myself, because I've made a couple of attempts, and it really, in that knowing the hurt that I was causing or going to cause. In the beginning, it would have been my parents, and the second time would have been my children. So just knowing that that journey within my life will be able to help someone else out, and also open the door for me to meet people and to be able to learn more about, you know, things that are happening. And again, to be able to talk to you, just give us a good statement, or give us words of encouragement as a mom when you have a son. And I know you're still, you know, in the grieving process. Some things that you would encourage a mom when she has a son that, you know, that wants to talk but don't know how to talk.
Okay. I think the most important thing is to give your son the same space that you would your daughter. You know, because I think we do raise our boys and girls differently, because we, you know, kind of fold into those stereotypes of who men need to be. And also, I believe in connecting your men, your sons with men. As much as we love our kids, and as much as we want to give to them, and much as we can give to them, we truly cannot teach them how to be men. And even though Cameron's dad, you know, we were married for 20 something years, he was in the household, they didn't have that relationship. So, and I'm a true believer that if Cameron had more older men, he had a great relationships with my dad, but I think if he had someone closer to his age where he could go in and talk to, that he would potentially still be here. So I encourage moms to facilitate those relationships with uncles or with friends, or finding, you know, a support group to help your son to be a part of. But most importantly, listen to them. And when they're telling you that they're struggling, or if you see that they're struggling, sit down and have those conversations, and not, tell them things like man up, or be strong, or be a man about it. Because being a man doesn't mean bottling up your feelings and doing it alone. So that would be what I would tell women, tell mothers.
I thank you for that, because that's the same thing for me with my boys. I have both boys and girls. And
Mhm.
right now I have a son who's military. And I still have to give him that love and want to give him that involvement with men that,
Mhm.
can say, hey, I need you to come and talk to me if there's something wrong, and don't be afraid. And the one thing that he said to me that really stood out to me, and I didn't know in my time of marriage, that my ex-husband told my son, men don't cry. And he held on to that till I had to really tell him,
Mhm.
men do cry. We just don't see it. And it's okay to cry. It's okay to have feelings. It's okay to be able to express yourself in a manner, because I don't need you with that all bottled up inside.
Right.
And one day you just really explode and hurt somebody.
Mhm.
So I want you to be able to know that it's okay not to be okay, and it's okay to express and share your feelings, and talk to someone who can understand and not give you those words of "Bob, hold me and don't do this,"
Right.
hey, man up,
Mhm.
no,
Yeah.
no. That's the reason why a lot of our men are hurting right now to this day, because that's what they heard. Men don't cry, man
Mhm.
up. You don't have to tell everybody. Tell your homeboy what's going on. And your homeboy, just like a female, he gossip. He gonna go and tell everybody your business too. So, truth be told, unapologetically.
Yes. And there has to be a balance. You can't just be, on them and yelling and screaming but then you also can't coddle too much too. So there has to be that
That's it.
fine balance.
Exactly, exactly. Thank you again, Miss Weaver,
Thank
for
you for
for
having me.
joining in. I hope you can attend on the 19th if
I
possible.
have it on the
You know,
calendar.
and come sit out there. Come have some shrimp and grits with me, or some chicken
Yes.
and waffles. Bring your fan.
Yes.
Swing the fan. Boots on the ground. Yeah.
Yes, we actually just did a boots on the ground fan fundraiser. So
Okay.
I'm ready. I have my fan ready.
Well, I look forward to seeing you on the 19th, and come share your information, because we all need to talk about this. Needs to be a conversation that needs to be had. And I'm all about having conversations, uncomfortable
Definitely.
conversations that people need to have, because if we don't know better, we don't do better, and we can't respond correctly.
Exactly.
Okay.
Agree.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night. I
You
appreciate you
too.
being on there. Talk to you soon.
Okay, take care. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye. Okay, guys. So you have seen my guest. Yes, a bold story never ends. That is such an amazing story by Cameron. I enjoyed spending time talking with his mom tonight. Also, for those who don't know, next Tuesday, I will be on the Fire Show with Yielded. Talking about mental health as well. You're gonna find your girl in all spaces and all places. Talking about mental health and mental health awareness. Again, that is July 19th. We're hosting the Tonight is the Night Mental Health Symposium. Tickets are still available. Come sit out, sup with us, learn something new, learn something different. I will be on the Fire Show with Yielded on next Tuesday. That show is from 4 to 7 p.m. Look out for the flyer. I didn't get a chance to post it on there. Um, Go and do the kids food drive with Critical Show, where they're feeding kids games, prizes, haircuts, hairs are being braided. Yep, braids are happening. Also, if you're in the Acres Home area or in somewhere in that vicinity, drop your kids out for 4 hours. Come out there. Let the kids get educated for the summer. We're there until July 30th. I'm there on Wednesdays, but it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. I'm there on Wednesdays talking about mental health awareness. Because again, when we don't know better, we don't do better, and we cannot respond properly. Then, like I said, the drive. Hey, Come out there, be a part. Don't forget to come be at the Mental Health Symposium. It is your girl, Martisha Sherman, the unapologetic therapist. I love you to life. Come join in every Wednesday from 7 to 8. You never know who I'm going to have on the show that's going to talk about mental health and how it has impacted them and what are they doing in the community. I love you to life. Let's get out here and have normal conversation. Let's normalize mental health and mental health awareness in a community. I'm telling you, people need to have this conversation because there's too many people taking their lives on things that they can have a conversation about. Just a conversation. And all they need is someone to listen and listen with a clear mind of clear understanding and not to be judged. It's your girl, Martisha Sherman, the unapologetic therapist. Once again, this Wednesday night. Good night, you guys.